This past weekend, I went to see Hoppers in 3D, and I found it a pleasant experience. If perhaps an understated 3D experience, it was fun all the same. Being Pixar, I'm guessing this was rendered in 3D rather than converted, and I wonder if that had something to do with a sense of immersion I kept having, often making me feel like a player character in a game rather than merely a viewer. I imagine this movie would work well as an immersive VR experience, with stereo that never comes at you, never invades the eyes, but rather provides deep, scenic views to gaze into. The attention on the distance made me feel like I was inside, not merely looking at it through a window. I noticed the characters were typically positioned into discernible, close, medium, and background areas. Now, this is like many movies, but in many 3D conversions, these settings of organized characters often feel like layers, probably as a consequence of the process. With Hoppers, I felt I may have been witnessing the strength of what a rendered 3D image can bring, where things set apart just felt like they were standing there. Never like a Viewmaster layer, more like watching a well-set live-action play. I was lucky to see this in a large, new theater with a bright image, and I'm guessing that may have influenced my thoughts. Hoppers doesn't challenge the eyes. The stereo never does anything to draw attention to itself. It just sort of exists in a take-it-or-leave-it sort of way. I recently saw some other 3D movies in an old theater that looked like it was projecting through a cheesecloth. On a poorly lit 3D screen, the stereo has to be very loud to be noticed. Now, if I saw Hoppers under those conditions, this would have been a far more mundane watch. I have no doubt that there are screens out there that would make this a pointless 3D experience. For example, a close look at backgrounds reveal minute, perhaps single pixel variations that make it feel lush and alive when perceived, but easily become flat if the screen is dim or the focus is soft. You have to be able to see these fine details to appreciate the deeply reflective pond that is at the center of the film, or thousands of little droplets of splashing water when things get turbulent after. Now, there is occasional excitement. I recall some lasers being pointed directly at the camera, which was fun, and some interesting lens distortion when our robot beaver takes a first look in forest land. And I suppose we approached something like a pop-out when we focused in on the furry face, which worked very well to establish this sense of Alice in Wonderland joyful curiosity. Yes, I said beavers. Going in, I knew nothing about this movie. It just happened to be the only 3D thing showing at that theater on that day. Story-wise, I assumed this would be about bunny rabbits. The title is Hoppers. It is released 2 weeks before Easter. So far as I could tell, a single rabbit does venture on screen for a bit, though I'm pretty sure that turned out to be a robot. The rabbits in this world have apparently all been eaten. Instead, we get beavers. Lots and lots of beavers. And beavers, they don't really hop, neither in the wild nor in this movie. They do dance a bit. If it wasn't for the logo, I would have never guessed this was a Pixar movie. A lot of the humor felt more like something you'd get out of a Shrek movie than, say, Toy Story. That is to say, it's kind of a dumb movie. Now, I like dumb. I like stupid. I love silly. But I know many people don't, and they might have a problem with sitting through this. Although the film does attempt to begin on a serious note with a requisite execution of a family member, being a parent in a Disney movie is like wearing a red shirt in old Star Trek. You know, they're only there for one reason. They actually kill 2 mothers in this movie, and the second one is the funniest thing I've seen in years. Sounds awful, but you're going to have to trust me that it works in context. The silliness is unrelenting. It never quite comes around to be heartwarming or emotionally affirming, though it's fairly considerate of its antagonist, which was actually refreshing, as everywhere else you look, it feels like it's all about vaporizing the other side. This movie is actually can be considered remarkable in that regard. It may be telling the story through one perspective, but as a presentation, it is not at all self-righteous. It's a bit fallible. Things are imperfect here. And like the 3D, that attitude allows the world to be seen without something jabbing you in the eye. You can just let your intellectual guard down and go along for the ride.